What's up, guys? Tim Queen here, and today we're going to talk about how to optimize your LinkedIn profile. Now, the overall concept you want to keep in mind is you want to treat your LinkedIn profile as a living, breathing document, not a static CV. You don't want to update this only every 10 years. You want to make small, tiny improvements continuously over time. This way is way easier to maintain, and it's also way easier to actually finish your LinkedIn profile. You don't have to do everything in a day. It's kind of like trying to climb the Mount Everest in a day. It's much easier to go in small iterations and then make small continuous improvements. You will see that your LinkedIn profile, if you start by the most important aspects, will actually look complete after just a few days. Now, the most important section of your LinkedIn profile is your LinkedIn headline. The majority of people never changes it, and by default, it might look something like your job title at your current company name. But it's so much more powerful. In fact, you actually have over 220 characters that you can use in order to promote yourself. I would recommend that you take full advantage of the full amount of characters and that you actually use it to both provide a value statement and to communicate important keywords that you want to be found in LinkedIn search. This can be industry-specific keywords, for example, qualifications that you own or degrees, if you have a PhD or if you have just made your MBA. It could be like specific professional qualifications. It could also be specific results you have achieved for the company. Maybe you have grown revenue by X%, or you have increased the number of customers from so-and-so to another level. What you want to highlight is specific keywords that are standing for themselves, ideally like 1 or 2 word statements, so you can get as many of them into your headline as possible. I would also recommend to include a value statement where you're describing like what is the one thing that you want to communicate to your ideal audience in one simple value statement. For example, you could start by describing who you are, what you do, or what value you're providing for a specific audience. And it just can be the value statement that you're putting into your LinkedIn headline. If you want to see how to optimize your LinkedIn headline, you can also check out my article on how to create a perfect LinkedIn headline. It contains a lot of different formulas for all kinds of different industries, for people from students who are looking for an internship, to job seekers looking for a specific role, to self-employed people looking for attracting specific type of clients. I'm going to put the link down in the description and in the pinned comment below. Now, in order to fit both your keywords and your value statement inside, you can use a connecting character. For example, a pipe symbol is a really good one. Or you can use something like a dash or like a dot. I'm going to put like a couple of them like over here as an overlay, so you can kind of see like how you can concatenate all of those different words or statements together. And then you're going to have a really powerful LinkedIn headline that both stands out when someone discovers your content in their newsfeed, for example, if you're creating content, or how you're going to show up in LinkedIn search results. The next section we're going to talk about is your About section. Here you want to really make sure that you're writing in first person. The majority of people prefers a first person statement. If you're writing in third person, like Tim Queen is a very established, it sounds oftentimes a little bit like disconnecting. It often sounds like your biographer is writing a statement about your book. If you're writing in first person, it sounds like you have written this yourself and it's way more personal. Also important to keep in mind that your About section is completely collapsed by default, meaning they can only see like the first 1 to 3 sentences in your LinkedIn profile. That means you actually have to write a really strong hook at the first sentence of your profile in order to get people to actually expand the section so they can read it. So really pay the most amount of attention on writing a captivating hook that encourages people to expand the About section and learn more about you. Now, how to use your About section? What you want to do is you want to kind of summarize your professional journey. People can always go into your work experience and educational experience section and actually see which specific role titles did you have at which company, what did you study, what degrees did you obtain at what university. But your About section is kind of to give someone a summary, to tell a story that makes sense. Because sometimes people might change industries, they might study one thing, but then work in a totally different industry. And sometimes the important information might be buried down in the description of a specific work experience section that people might not see if they're just scanning the logo, the company logos, and like your job title. So your About section is a really great place for you to communicate your life story in a concise manner that people can easily understand. Who are you? How did you get started? Where what were some of the things you did along the way and how did this form the person you are today? This is really the purpose of your About section, to give someone a complete picture of who you are so they have a better understanding of like, would you be a great fit to work with them, to get hired by them, or to be invited for, let's say, a podcast. So this is a really powerful section, but you don't just want to keep it professional. You also want to share some personal details about you to humanize you. This is really important because when they were just interested in facts, they could just as well read your specific work or educational experience. So this is also like a great place to share something personal about you, some anecdotes that people might not know about, something that is kind of like funny or humorous, something that gives a bit more depth and personality to the impression that people have about you. I would recommend, in terms of your professional life, I would recommend to think in terms of bullet points where you're highlighting specific achievements that you have accomplished. You can also highlight specific data. For example, if you have achieved specific results for like a specific company that you are particularly proud of. In terms of readability, really make sure that you're using empty line breaks to break the text up. You really don't want to have like this big block of text. It's way better to have every paragraph or sometimes every sentence starting with an empty line and ending with an empty line, because it's way easier on the eye and easier for someone to follow along while reading this. And readability is the entire key of really having success on LinkedIn, because if you don't get people to read your About section, you might just not have any, because it would achieve the same results. I also recommend, depending on what you're looking for, it might also make perfect sense to include your contact information at the bottom of your About section. Really be careful about this, because this will be open to everyone. So if you want to put a phone number there, but you don't want anyone to call you, that might not be a great idea. So one recommendation is to set up a specific email address that you're just using for your public LinkedIn profile, so you can have better control over who can contact you and who can't. You just have to change position because the sun was just burning out my eyes. So next section, skills section. Skills section is really powerful. You can add up to 50 skills to your LinkedIn profile. And actually, LinkedIn has given us a big upgrade. The way this works is now that you can associate skills on LinkedIn with anything on your profile. Like you can say you obtained a specific skill by working in a specific role at this company, or you obtained a specific skill of doing this degree at this university, or doing this course on Coursera or on Udemy or whatever. You can basically associate a skill with almost any section of your profile. You can also get endorsements from other people for specific skills who are vouching and verifying that you're actually really good in the skill. And the way this works is that LinkedIn has standardized the skills. In the past, you could kind of type in like almost any skill you want, but LinkedIn has said like, no, we're going to standardize it. There are going to be a certain number of skills. The number is unknown. They're constantly adding new skills, but the way it's kind of like meant to be is that this is an important search feature, especially like for recruiting, where then recruiting companies can add skills to specific job descriptions, or they can look for people having a specific skill. And then depending on like how many endorsements you have for a skill, either through like meaningful work experience or education, or endorsements by people who are also skilled in that skill, your profile might show up like higher or lower in the search results. So it's really powerful to really make sure that you're optimizing your skills section. And the way I would work on this is sometimes if you have worked in one field and then like switching to another, you might want to remove some of the skills that are no longer relevant, especially if you're hitting the 50 skills limit. You have to reprioritize and put the most important skills at the top. You can also ask other people to endorse you for your skills and really go through your work experience and educational section and see which skills could you attribute to each particular section. So you can kind of creating like a certain amount of qualifications yourself, and then just collaborate with other people in your industry and ask them to endorse you for some of your skills and do the same for their profile. Now, the next section is about keyword optimization. We want to take that seriously on your LinkedIn profile. This is one of the most underrated things, because in the end of the day, your LinkedIn profile works the same way how a web page works on Google. You have to SEO optimize your LinkedIn profile. And the reason why is because your profile will be showing up in searches. This is one of the things where you want to be found by the right people. And what people are doing is they're typing in usually like a keyword or like maybe keyword plus location or whatever you can think of into the search field. And how do you make sure that you're actually showing up? Because LinkedIn has its own AI-driven algorithm to identify which people are most relevant for a particular search term. And one of them is keywords. And like, what you want to do is you want to include the right keywords in the right keyword density. You can think about important keywords, like adding them at least like 8 to 10 times in your profile. Let's say you were like a developer for Java. So you want to have the word Java developer or some related terms like Java programmer, Java software developer, Java code, Java programming language. You want to have that keyword, or at the very quite least the word Java, at least like 8 to 10 times in your profile. Now this could be, for example, including this in your headline section, in your about section, in various aspects in your work experience where you were working in Java. Maybe you took a course in Java. Maybe that was part of your IT degree at university. Maybe that is in your skills section. Maybe you have an endorsement where someone is writing you a recommendation about what a great worker you are, how skilled you are in Java. So if you can include each keyword that you want to be found for at least like 8 to 10 times, you're really in a good position where people can actually find you. You don't want to overdo it. You don't want to have your keyword like spammed like 50 times because it's all about the keyword ratio. If you include it too many times, you will not get the results that you're looking for. Another great way to find the right keywords is actually to use ChatGPT, Gemini, or Claude and actually giving it some job description and letting it analyze it for what are the keywords that seem to be most important for a particular role. You can also go to someone else's LinkedIn profile where you find this is a really good profile, or this profile seems to show up a lot in search results. And you can copy the entire LinkedIn profile description and use AI to identify the most important keywords that are listed on the LinkedIn profile. If you do that for a couple of LinkedIn profiles, you can quickly make a list of, let's say, the top 10 to 20 keywords that you want to include in your LinkedIn profile. And then just look at how you can incorporate them in different sections of your LinkedIn profile, from most important to least important. The least important skills don't have to be included like 10 times. They can just be included like a few times, maybe 3 to 4 times, and you are in good shape to get found on LinkedIn. Now, our next part it's all about engagement and networking. What you want to do is you want to get at least 500 connections on LinkedIn. This is kind of a magic number because once you have more than 500 connections, LinkedIn will just show that you have 500 and plus connections. Now, the reason why you want that is because it communicates that you are relatively established on LinkedIn. You have been there, have built your network, you are well connected to a certain degree. When sometimes people create a new profile, they have difficulties getting their connection requests accepted because when it just shows like 7 connections on LinkedIn, people think, oh, that might be a spam bot who is just trying to build a network with new people on LinkedIn. So if you have a number like 500 connections, really communicates that you have been on the platform for a longer period of time, and it's less likely that you're a spam bot. Otherwise, you might have not gotten to 500 connections before LinkedIn banned your account. Another thing that you can do to really establish yourself on LinkedIn is to follow relevant industry influencers and companies. This will be listed on the bottom of your LinkedIn profile in the interest section, where people can see what kind of companies you follow and what kind of LinkedIn influencers. Those are the ones with the blue badge. You don't necessarily want to treat this as like you're really interested in what they have to say, although of course that would help a lot. You want to treat this as a way of communicating values by following specific people, while knowing that people can see who you follow, at least those blue follow marks, and which companies you follow. You're communicating that you are well established in a specific industry. For example, let's say you're working in software development and you're doing software development for enterprise Linux. That might be a good idea to follow SUSE or Red Hat Linux or Debian. So when people like looking at your profile, sometimes they want to evaluate like, are you like the real deal? Like, what would a person who claims to be a programmer in enterprise Linux, would they follow? And if they see, oh, you're following all of those important Linux distributions or other like specific organizations associated with your industry, it makes a lot more sense to them, and that really creates the better impression that you will like in alignment with what kind of expectations people are expecting from someone that you want to present yourself as. The most important aspect of networking on LinkedIn is really to engage with other members on the platform. That means you want to get active in the comments section, really get comfortable writing comments on other people's posts. Specifically people, you can also comment on company pages, but there's usually like a lot less engagement going on. With people, when you comment something, it will not only be seen by the author of the post, but it will also be seen by other people who have engaged with the post. Maybe they liked the post or they wrote a comment themselves or they shared it with their network. They will see it. And then anyone who is in their network might also have a chance to see your comment. If enough people like your comment, it might actually make it to the top of recommended comments that will show up under the post before someone has to expand the section. So it's a really great way to get eyeballs onto your profile if you have something really interesting to say. That might encourage people to actually visit your profile, to connect with you or to follow you. It's a really great way to build a powerful LinkedIn network and to find like-minded people who share similar opinions or might have opportunities that you were not aware of. A really cool way to engage on LinkedIn, which is currently working, is you can actually participate in collaborative articles. This is a really powerful way. You have to be invited by LinkedIn. If you're adding the right skills to your profile, you're getting enough endorsements from people like skilled in that particular skill, unlike, of course, qualifiers like education, work experience. LinkedIn will invite you to participate in collaborative articles, which is essentially like an AI-driven article. And LinkedIn will ask you like to write a small section about it. It might be like a simple question about something in your industry. So if you answer enough of those questions, you will eventually get a top contributor badge, and that will prominently show up at the top below your LinkedIn headline and will say top voice in particular industry. It's a really powerful way to communicate that you are really skilled in your industry and you are recognized as a thought leader. Sometimes when you want to connect to someone really famous, they might have locked down their connections or they require that you actually know their email address in order for you to be able to send them a connection request. In this case, you might still be able to reach out to that person and get your connection request accepted by sending them an email. This is a LinkedIn Premium feature where you get a certain number of credits, but it basically allows you to send a message to almost everyone on LinkedIn. It's almost the length of it. Think of it like the length of an email, but you can send it to any LinkedIn member without knowing their email address. It's a very powerful way to expand your network with people who are outside of your reach because you don't know their email address or you like not particular or they don't know you at this moment. To get really the most out of LinkedIn, really treat this as a way to build interpersonal relationship with other LinkedIn members, not just for a job search. You will actually find that you actually get way more job opportunities if you actually spend time engaging and in personal messages, in comments with other LinkedIn members. If people see you as someone they might consider like a work friend or even like a personal friend, when opportunities come along the way, they're usually not advertised right away. They're usually like known to a smaller circle of people for a really long time. So if someone knows there might be a job available at this company in this department before it's even advertised, and they're reaching out to you and say, hey, how about you reach out about this job opportunity? I can make an introduction. You actually have a way better chance of continuously always having the best job offers available to you. And it's really powerful. This is what LinkedIn is all about. It's all about networking and building real relationships. Okay, next section that you want to work. And this is not really a LinkedIn profile section per se, or I should better say it's a dynamic section on your LinkedIn profile. It's your content section. It's kind of whenever you are creating something on LinkedIn, you're writing a text post, you're uploading a photo, a video, maybe uploading a PDF document, starting a poll, writing an article, maybe publishing a newsletter. Every time you create a dynamic piece of content, it will be added to your activity feed on your LinkedIn profile, and it's very prioritized at the top. People visit your profile, can see all of your public posts, and it's a really great way to actually establish yourself as a thought leader and really communicate who you are. By really talking about interesting things in your industry, you can really establish your brand as someone who is very knowledgeable, very experienced, who has a lot of insights to share. And you also present yourself as a person who is willing to share all of those valuable information with your network, which is really powerful because a lot of people want to follow other people, want to be connected to who are actually willing to share useful information because they don't want to miss out on maybe some important bits of wisdom that you might share in the future. Now, creating content can be quite intimidating at first, so I would recommend that you try different content types and see which one works best. So there are essentially like 3 types of content you could experiment with if you're interested in writing. The first one is a text-only post. There you have at about 3,000 characters available for you to write a short post. Here, what you want to do is you want to focus and optimize it on readability, so it's easy for people to digest if they're watching it on their desktop computer or on their mobile phone app. Add empty line breaks in between sentences and paragraph for better readability, and use like bullet point characters in order to structure your thing. You can also use emojis as a replacement for that. If you feel comfortable writing longer text, you can write articles. They don't get as much engagement as a text-only post, but a really great tool to establish your brand on LinkedIn. And they're generally they can also be indexed on Google, while text posts usually have a lifetime of like a few weeks. Articles can often have a lifetime of several years or even decades. There are some articles who have been written like 10, 20 years ago who are still indexing on page 1 of Google and can be a constant driver of traffic, of interesting people to your LinkedIn profile. Now, the third type, this is the most advanced type, requires a little bit more work. It's uploading documents on LinkedIn. Now, luckily, there is a couple of ways you can really quickly create a nice PDF document. You could just open your Word document or your Google Docs, and you can just export it as a PDF. Or if you want to make it a little bit more graphical, you could use an application like Canva and export like a multi-page document as a PDF. Those documents usually have the highest amount of engagement because you can communicate information so much more effectively, because you can add graphics, you can add photographs in it, and it makes it way easier to read and to illustrate even the most complex topics. So that's my recommendation. Try text posts, articles, and PDF documents. If you're more adventurous, you could also try uploading like a picture every once in a while, like something important happens. Maybe you're having like a celebration at work, or you have like achieved like a certain new certificate. You can upload a picture of that. Or you could also try recording short video clips. Like I would recommend less than a minute long, even though you can like upload up to 15 minutes. But see if you can repurpose some of the content, especially if you're having like a business-focused content on some of the other platforms like Instagram Reels, on TikTok, or on YouTube Shorts, and see if that would also resonate with your audience on LinkedIn. To sum it up, let's talk about some of the things to avoid that we already talked about, some of them. Don't write in third person, write in first person. Don't overload your about section or really any other written section of your LinkedIn profile with too many emojis. Don't use abbreviations that are only relevant in your industry. You always want to have an abbreviation and a long form, specifically for keyword optimization, because it's not always clear what an abbreviation means. You might think so, but there is oftentimes abbreviation could have 10 different meanings depending on your industry. So always having at least like 1 or 2 parts of your profile where you actually write each acronym out makes it really easy for LinkedIn to understand what your content is all about. Never use the default headline. Always take the time to personalize your LinkedIn headline with relevant keywords and a personal value statement. Don't use broken grammar or spelling mistakes on your profile. Always double check your grammar and spelling, either with Word grammar check or with like a dedicated app like Grammarly. In terms of content mistakes, don't just overdo professional content. You can also make it lighthearted and include a personal tone that makes you more relatable and also shares like a little bit of your personality in your content. It doesn't have to be all strict. It can also be sometimes fun on LinkedIn. So in summary, treat your LinkedIn profile as a living, breathing document where you make small, continuous improvement over time instead of having like one big project where you just optimize your LinkedIn profile once every 5 years and then never come back to it. It's much easier to maintain, and every time you get a new certificate, just add it to your certificate section. Every time you have a new degree, take the time to upgrade something. Every time you're looking for a new job, take the time to reread your different sections and see if you can kind of like optimize some of the keywords to better match the job description you're looking for. If you want to get more tips about LinkedIn and how to write really engaging content, you can also check out my LinkedIn Accelerator program. I'm going to put the link down in the description. You can also check out my LinkedIn hashtag guide where I talk about how to find the right hashtag for your profile. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.